Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it?
Glad to be here.
Imagine landing in a country that is currently experiencing one of the most explosive tourism booms on the entire planet right now.
Yeah, it's wild.
Right, like a place where the infrastructure is just groaning under the weight of this unprecedented influx of global visitors.
Absolutely groaning.
So we are looking at a situation where Marrakesh is dealing with this staggering 40% year-over-year growth in overnight tourist stays.
40%, I mean, that is just massive.
It really is. The crowds are immense, the hospitality sector is stretched to its absolute limits, and just the sheer volume of humanity navigating those ancient alleyways is completely reshaping the local economy.
Oh, for sure.
But then, you take a train just a few hours up the Atlantic coast to Morocco's political capital, Rabat.
Right.
And you find a city where tourism numbers have crept up by a mere 3%.
It's such a stark contrast.
So today we are unpacking a massive dossier of data pricing and on-the-ground research to answer one central question.
And it's a big one.
Yeah. With Rabat taking on the mantle of the 2026 UNESCO World Book Capital, is this administrative stronghold finally worth the detour?
Or does it stay a layover spot?
Exactly. Should it remain what it has been for decades, which is just this quick, skippable day trip you tack onto the end of a Casablanca layover?
Right.
We are going to explore the true 2026 cost mechanics of an updated and highly contested tourist tax, the counterintuitive best times to visit specific logistical traps to avoid, and ultimately our final verdict matrix for 5 distinct traveler types.
I am so ready for this.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with this massive discrepancy.
Yeah,
and it's arguably the most fascinating discrepancy in global travel right now.
A 40% growth rate versus a 3% growth rate.
Exactly. In the exact same country, under the exact same National Tourism Board. It isn't an accident or some statistical blip.
Yeah, it's very deliberate.
Right. It is a structural reality of how Morocco has positioned its various regions over the past 2 decades, and how international travelers have been conditioned to consume those regions. We really need to look at the macro numbers first, to just understand the sheer scale of what is happening here.
Yeah, so by the end of 2024, Morocco hit 17.4 million international visitors.
Which is a colossal milestone. I mean, I was looking at the historical projections, and the government had set this highly ambitious, like almost aspirational target to reach that number by 2026.
And they just blew right past it.
A full 2 years early. So the country is fundamentally dealing with a success problem.
Yeah.
But how does a flood of 17.4 million people almost entirely bypass the capital city?
To understand that, we have to contrast the economic mechanics of a tourism-dependent hub with those of a political capital.
Okay.
Marrakesh, in its modern iteration, was deliberately engineered to capture foreign capital.
Right, the luxury riads and all that.
Exactly. Its contemporary economy orbits around those luxury riads, the nightlife, the guided excursions, and high-end hospitality.
Yeah.
So when a city's primary industry relies on selling an experience to foreigners, the entire local population becomes in some way integrated into that extraction economy.
That makes total sense.
But Rabat is fundamentally different. Its economy orbits around the king, the national parliament, dozens of foreign embassies, a massive civil service sector, and several major universities.
So it's an administrative machine.
Right. When a city's primary export is administration, diplomacy, and education, the local population is not financially dependent on selling rugs to tourists.
I love that comparison. It creates a completely different psychological atmosphere on the street. It's like the difference between a city that exists to entertain you versus a city that is simply going about its daily business and just allowing you to observe.
That's a perfect way to put it.
It really is like the noise-canceling headphone version of Morocco.
Yes, absolutely.
If the country blew past its 17.4 million target, why is that flood completely missing the capital?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's because tourists go where the marketing tells them the party is. But now Rabat has this massive title.
Right, the 2026 World Book Capital. What does that actually mean on the ground?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like a shiny plaque that just hang in a government building.
Yeah.
But our research shows it's much more structural than that.
Oh, it is highly structural. Rabat isn't just hosting a few literary events. The city's infrastructure supports 54 distinct publishing houses.
54?
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it is home to stunning historic libraries, a deeply entrenched network of independent bookstores, and what is expanding into one of the largest international book fairs on the African continent.
Wow.
So when you build your cultural infrastructure around literature rather than mega clubs or desert ATV tours, you organically select for a totally different demographic of traveler.
You're selecting for someone who wants to slowly wander through an Andalusian garden with a paperback rather than, someone looking for a bachelor party at a Palmaray pool club. Precisely.
Yeah.
And because the core demographic of Rabat consists of local civil servants and diplomats who flat out refuse to pay inflated tourist prices for their daily lives, the cost of existing in Rabat remains insulated from the inflation we see in Marrakesh.
I mean, the data shows that the daily travel budget in Rabat currently averages about $84 a day per traveler,
Which is amazing.
with the standard range between $50 and $151.
Yeah, and that is roughly a third of what you're paying in high season Marrakesh.
Exactly. We are seeing hotel averages across the board sitting at around 165 British pounds a night, but the floor is incredibly low.
It's shockingly low.
You can find authentic accommodations like Tsouli for roughly 20 pounds,
For a real place to stay, not just a cot.
right? Or practical airport transit hotels for $23. It creates this fascinating scenario where the BBC even ran a report noting that the Rabat Medina is so quiet you can actually hear the Atlantic waves crashing from inside the whitewashed lanes.
I read that. It's so poetic, but it's true.
But if the Atlantic is shaping the soundscape, it's also entirely dictating the reality of traveling there.
We really need to talk about the climate here.
Yeah, because travelers often have a deeply flawed mental model of Moroccan weather.
They absolutely do. Travelers hear the word Morocco and they instinctively prepare for an endless Saharan sandbox.
Right, just blazing heat.
They expect unyielding desert heat. But Rabat's geography fundamentally alters its climate. It operates on an Atlantic moderated weather system.
So the ocean changes everything.
Exactly.
Right.
The cold Atlantic current acts as a massive natural air conditioner for the entire coastal strip.
Which means the temperature in Rabat is consistently about 10 degrees Celsius cooler than Marrakesh in the summer.
It's a huge difference.
It rarely, if ever, sees those brutal 45-degree spikes that make southern Morocco completely exhausting from June through August.
So true.
So if we break down the calendar to find the optimal window, when should a traveler actually go?
Well, the undeniable sweet spot is the spring window, from March through May.
Okay.
The weather sits at a perfectly breezy 22 degrees Celsius during the day. Visually, it is the best time to see the Ville Nouvelle, the French colonial new town.
Because of the trees, right?
Yeah, the streets are lined with blooming jacaranda trees that drop these vibrant purple flowers everywhere.
Oh, that sounds gorgeous.
It is. And economically, you're looking at around 78 pounds a night for a highly rated 3-star hotel near the historic Kasbah.
But then we move into the summer block, June through August. And this is where the pricing logic gets incredibly counterintuitive for international
It
travelers.
really flips upside down.
Usually summer is peak pricing globally, but in Rabat, this is when hotel prices hit absolute rock bottom.
Yeah, we're seeing 4-star rooms dipping under $50 a night.
But there is a meteorological catch, right?
Yes, there is a phenomenon known locally as the Atlantic haze, or the marine layer.
So it's foggy.
Exactly. While the inland cities are baking in dry heat, the coastal wind pushes a heavy gray fog off the ocean and traps the humidity directly over Rabat.
Right.
It burns off eventually, but your mornings are often heavily overcast. The reason prices drop for international tourists is partly due to this weather, but also because domestic travel patterns shift.
Wait, unpack that for a second. How do domestic Moroccan tourists dictate the international hotel rates in Rabat?
It's super interesting because Moroccan families living in the blistering inland heat of places like Fez or Marrakesh flee to the cooler coast for their summer holidays.
Oh, so they want the air conditioning of the coast.
Right. However, they tend to rent apartments or stay with family rather than booking international business hotels.
I see.
So those 4-star corporate and diplomatic hotels suddenly find themselves totally empty in August, and they slash their rates to maintain occupancy.
That makes so much sense.
And additionally, depending entirely on the shifting lunar calendar, the lingering effects of Ramadan restaurant closures can sometimes spill into the early summer, which temporarily limits daytime dining options.
Okay, so if summer is cheap but foggy, when is the second premium window?
September and October.
The fall.
Yeah. The marine layer dissipates, the light becomes incredibly crisp, and crucially, the Atlantic is finally warm enough to actually swim in comfortably.
That sounds perfect.
It is, but you pay a premium for that perfection.
Yeah.
5-star rooms average £225 during this window, and they top out near almost $400, $392 specifically at premium properties like Riyadh El Medina as you push into November.
But looking at the dossier, I'm really fascinated by February.
Oh yeah, February's a secret weapon.
It seems like a strange time to visit the coast, but it looks like the ultimate insider's secret.
February's brilliant if your primary focus is culture rather than beach time.
Right.
The skies are generally clear, the heavy winter rains have usually passed, and hotel rates near the Kasbah drop back down to that highly affordable $76 to $90 range.
And there's a big event then, too.
Most importantly for the 2026 designation, February is traditionally when the SIEL runs.
Let's clarify that acronym for the listener.
Absolutely. SIEL stands for the Salon International de l'Édition et du Livre.
The International Publishing and Book Fair.
Exactly. It is massively expanded under the new UNESCO World Book Capital program. So in February, you get the absolute cultural peak of the year with global authors panels and street events while entirely avoiding peak tourist pricing.
I do want to throw up one massive flashing red warning for the summer, though.
Oh, yes, we have to mention this.
If you are aiming for that, hear a pin drop in the Medina experience. Do not go to Rabat in late June.
Just avoid it.
That is when the Mawazine Music Festival takes over. It's one of the largest music festivals on the planet.
People don't realize how huge it is.
They fly in global pop stars. Millions of domestic and international fans flood the city. Every hotel's booked solid, and the traffic is completely gridlocked.
Yeah, it's chaos.
It is the one week of the year where Rabat's calm civil service identity is entirely suspended.
Which highlights how crucial timing is, and that timing directly dictates the logistics of how you actually arrive in the city.
Getting there is half the battle.
The mechanics of getting to Rabat are a major point of confusion for first-time visitors because the most logical assumption, flying into the city's own airport, is usually the wrong move.
This blew my mind when I was reviewing the flight routes. The best way to fly to Rabat is to literally not fly to Rabat.
What's fascinating here is it really comes down to volume and route subsidies.
Most international travelers should be wicking their flights into Casablanca's Mohammed V International Airport right, the one with the airport code CMN. Why is the aviation logic so skewed here?
Because Casablanca is the primary economic and transit hub for the entire country. The sheer volume of wide-body long-haul flights landing at CMN creates a highly competitive pricing environment.
Supply and demand.
Exactly. For example, a standard round-trip economy ticket from Los Angeles to Casablanca averages around $715.
Huh?
If you leverage one of the frequent TTET Air Portugal layover deals, you can easily get that fare down to an astonishing $491.
But I immediately push back on that.
Go for it.
If I save $200 by landing in Casablanca, aren't I just going to lose that money and my sanity trying to hire a private driver to navigate an hour and a half of Moroccan highway traffic up the coast to Rabat?
That is the exact assumption that trips people up, and it's where Morocco's infrastructure truly shines.
Okay, tell me.
You do not need a private driver. Once you clear customs at Casablanca Airport, you take an escalator down to the basement level of the terminal.
Just right in the airport.
Right there is the ONCF, the Office National des Chemins de Fer, which is Morocco's highly efficient national railway network.
Oh, a train?
There is a direct train that departs the airport, connects through the city, and drops you straight into the Rabat Agdal high-speed rail station.
How long does that take?
The journey takes exactly 1 hour and 10 minutes.
And the cost?
About 8 to 10 euros in second class.
Wow.
It is, without exaggeration, the single most efficient, cost-effective airport transfer mechanism in North Africa. The trains are modern air-conditioned and have ample luggage storage.
So it renders private car transfers completely obsolete.
Basically, yes.
Unless your flight lands after 11 p.m. when the train network shuts down for the night, paying $100 for a private taxi from Casablanca to Rabat is just throwing money away.
Exactly. Now, if you are flying from Europe, you might occasionally find a budget airline routing directly into the local Rabat Saleh airport.
Right.
If you do catch one of those flights, the local logistics are very straightforward. Budget transit hotels located about 1.5 miles from the runway will run you $23 to $33 a night.
Very cheap.
And a standard petite taxi, the small local metered cabs, will run you about 30 to 50 dirhams, which is just $3 to $5 to get from the airport directly into the historic Medina.
But regardless of whether you step off the train from Casablanca or take a taxi from the local airport, the moment you arrive in the center of Rabat, The sensory shift is immediate and profound.
It really is a physical sensation.
If you have previously traveled to Marrakesh or Fez, the contrast in Rabat gives you a sort of reverse culture shock.
Yeah, you brace yourself for chaos, and there isn't any.
You walk into the historic Medina, and there are no mopeds weaving blindly through the pedestrian souks trying to clip your heels.
No exhaust fumes.
There is no gauntlet of aggressive shopkeepers stationed on every corner trying to drag you into a carpet shop or offering you unsolicited directions that inevitably end in a demand for money.
That street-level calm traces directly back to the economic makeup we discussed earlier.
The civil servants.
You are walking through a city populated by civil servants, university students, and diplomats. The heavy prevalence of the French language, which is spoken just as frequently, if not more so, in certain business districts than Arabic, is a direct artifact of that administrative and colonial history.
It completely changes how you are perceived as a foreigner.
Totally.
In heavily touristed cities, you are often viewed primarily as a walking wallet, right? Like a target for a hard sell.
A mark, basically.
Yeah. In Rabat, you are just another person navigating a working city. No one is particularly impressed or motivated by your presence.
And the absolute architectural embodiment of that calm is the Kasbah de Oudaias.
Oh, I love that spot.
It is a fortified, ancient citadel perched on a cliff at the mouth of the Bou Regreg River. Inside the walls, it is an incredibly peaceful, meticulously maintained residential neighborhood painted entirely in brilliant blues and bright whites.
It's gorgeous.
You can wander through these silent, winding, immaculate alleys and look over the ancient stone walls directly down at the Atlantic Ocean breaking below.
And the detail that travelers absolutely love is that entry to the Kasbah neighborhood itself is entirely free.
Free is always good.
It isn't a gated theme park. It's a living, breathing part of the city. But while walking around is free, eventually you need a place to sleep.
Right. You can't sleep in the alleys.
This brings us to a major breakdown of the accommodation landscape in Rabat. We have segmented this into 4 distinct traveler tiers, but we also have to unpack a highly frustrating hidden tax that is catching tourists completely off guard this year.
Let's start with the baseline, the backpacker tier. Strictly under $40 a night.
Okay.
The standout property here is Tsouli, located deep inside the Medina.
We mentioned that one earlier.
Yeah, it averages about £20 a night, includes reliable Wi-Fi, and sits just 0.2 miles from the exact city center. It is arguably the most secure, legitimate budget bed in the capital.
If you want a slight architectural upgrade but still need to respect that sub-$40 threshold, look at Riyadh Marlinia on Dervharda.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
If you book it during the shoulder season, it stays under $40, and you get an actual authentic courtyard Riyadh experience.
The real deal.
You get the traditional Zellige tile work, the central fountain, the carved wood, the entire aesthetic you want in Morocco, without the massive Marrakesh markup.
Moving up to the mid-range tier, which we define as $70 to $130 a night, Rabat offers truly exceptional value.
Unbelievable value.
A property like Dar Tahar, sitting just under a mile from the center, maintains a flawless 5-star traveler rating for cleanliness and location and averages just $88 a night. For the quintessential textbook Moroccan riad experience with a sprawling roof terrace, Riyadh Chellah in the Medina sits right around $152 and serves as the benchmark for that category.
And what if you don't want a traditional riad? What if you are traveling for business, or you just prefer standard, predictable corporate amenities?
Then you look at the Az Hotel Rabat Center in the Quartier Hassan.
Okay.
It's a highly reliable, modern 3-star property with a 24-hour front desk, in-room safes, and it is genuinely walkable to major monuments like the Hassan Tower.
Then we have the family tier, capped between $100 and $180 a night.
Families need different things.
Exactly. When you're traveling with children in North Africa, pool access is essentially a non-negotiable requirement for everyone's sanity.
Absolute deal breaker without a pool.
La Gazar is a fantastic option, averaging £126 a night with spacious family rooms. Dullah's Rabat Art and Spa also sits comfortably in that price band and offers excellent pool facilities.
Both great choices.
But if premium service is your priority, the Brat Hotel at $166 a night is the top family pick, boasting incredible traveler ratings for their concierge and support staff.
Finally, we reach the luxury tier, which begins at $200 and stretches upwards.
The high rollers.
Historically, the Grand Dame Palace option in Rabat has been the Sofitel Rabat Jardin des Roses, located in the diplomatic quarter on Avenue Imam Malik.
That one is famous.
It averages £191 a night, roughly $240, and features the largest private manicured gardens of any city hotel.
Nice.
But for 2026, there is a seismic disruption in this tier with the full opening of the Royal Mansour Rabat.
We have to talk about the Royal Mansour because the numbers are staggering.
Eye-watering numbers.
They're aggressively positioning this property as North Africa's most expensive, exclusive new build hotel. We're talking over $1,200 per night.
Yeah, it's intense.
I am struggling to understand the logic here. How do you possibly justify a $1,200 nightly rate when the Sofitel, an internationally recognized luxury brand, is literally down the street for a fraction of that cost?
You are not paying for a bed. You are purchasing access to an entirely different strata of existence.
Okay.
The Royal Mansour brand is famously owned by the Moroccan royal family. The architectural philosophy behind it isn't about corporate luxury. It is about acting as a showcase for the absolute pinnacle of Moroccan artisanship.
Oh, I see.
The zellige tilework, the carved cedar, the tadillac plaster, it is executed by master craftsmen whose skills have been passed down for generations. You are paying for unparalleled exclusivity, hyper-personalized service ratios where you likely never see another guest if you don't want to, and the immense prestige of the name. It is a status purchase.
Okay, fair enough. But if you want boutique, highly curated luxury design without crossing that astronomical four-figure threshold story, Le Carousel Rabat delivers exactly that for roughly $250 a night.
A much more accessible luxury.
Though I do want to flag for parents, they enforce a strict $30 surcharge per night for any child over the age of 6.
Good to know.
So what does this all mean? Speaking of surcharges, this brings us to the trapdoor in the budget, the hidden friction point. Morocco has reformed its tourist tax for 2026, and the implementation is a massive headache.
Tourist taxes are increasingly standard globally. We see them in Venice, Barcelona, Amsterdam, as municipalities attempt to offset the infrastructural wear and tear of visitors.
Right.
In Rabat, the updated tax scales based on the official STAR rating of your accommodation, ranging from 10 dirham at budget hostels up to 53 dirham per person per night at luxury hotels.
To put that in perspective for the listener, 53 dirham is roughly $5 or euros, so the math sneaks up on you quickly.
Very quickly.
If you were a family of 4 staying at a 4-star hotel for a week, you're going to get hit with an extra 112 euros, or about $120 in hidden costs.
Just poof, gone.
And the real kicker, you cannot pay this through your booking platform. It is not included in your prepaid Expedia or Booking.com rate.
Which is the worst part.
You have to pay it in cash, in local currency, physically at the reception desk when you check in.
That is the primary friction point.
Mm-hmm.
You arrive after a long travel day, you've already paid for your room online months ago, and suddenly the front desk is demanding local cash before they hand over the key.
Right, and you just landed.
If you haven't visited an ATM yet, you have to leave your luggage in the lobby and go hunt for a cash machine. It is a significant failure in seamless hospitality.
It completely disrupts the arrival experience. But the silver lining here is that once you navigate the tax charade, you will likely make that lost money back within your first 2 days simply by eating in the city.
Oh, the food budget is where you win it all back.
Because the culinary scene in Rabat runs noticeably cheaper than Marrakesh, and frankly, the baseline quality is often much higher than in commercialized areas like Casablanca.
This brings us back to the sociology of food pricing. When a city's primary lunch crowd consists of local government officials, diplomats, and university professors, the market is forced to maintain a high baseline of quality at reasonable local prices.
They won't stand for bad food.
A civil servant on their lunch break will not tolerate an overpriced, microwaved, inauthentic meal. The restaurants that survive in Rabat do so by serving excellent food at prices the local workforce can sustain.
Let's look at the quintessential Moroccan dish, the tagine.
Oh, yeah.
If you go deep into the Medina to atmospheric traditional restaurants like Dinarjat or Le Ziriab, a full, richly spiced, slowly braised meat or vegetable tagine will run you roughly 70 to 120 dirham.
Which is a steal.
That is about 7 to 12 US dollars. If you order that exact same standard of dish inside the tourist perimeter of Jema El Fnana in Marrakesh, they're easily charging you 180 dirham.
Minimum.
The tourist markup simply doesn't exist in the same way in Rabat.
And if you lean into the street food culture, the economics become even more compelling for the budget traveler.
I love the street food there.
Walking down Avenue Mohammed V, you can buy a hot, flaky mizmen, a traditional flatbread, for just 5 dirham, which is 50 cents.
So good.
A rich, hearty bowl of harira soup packed with lentils and chickpeas is 10 dirham. And because you are on the Atlantic coast, fresh seafood is a staple.
You have to get the seafood.
A freshly grilled sardine sandwich stuffed with tremula spices is just 20 dirham or $2.
Let's actually walk through a virtual grocery run. This is vital if you are a digital nomad, a long-stay traveler, or a family trying to manage costs.
Groceries are the way to go.
You will likely be shopping at the large Marjane or Carrefour market supermarkets, which have massive branches in the modern Agdal and Hayriad districts.
Yeah, they are huge.
The prices are incredibly stable. A large liter bottle of water is 6 dirham. A fresh loaf of bakery bread is 2.50.
Practically nothing.
If you buy a kilo of local oranges, which are phenomenal in Morocco, it's 10 to 14 dirham. A kilo of raw local chicken runs 55 to 70 dirham.
Really affordable.
And if you were buying a 33 centiliter local Casablanca beer in a licensed store, it's about 35 dirham. And if you really want to optimize your budget on a long stay, you skip the big supermarkets and hit the Turkish and local discount chains like BİM or Acima.
You mentioned beer, which requires a critical cultural note regarding alcohol and general etiquette in the capital.
Yes, this is important.
Rabat is notably drier in a public social sense than Marrakesh. The historic Medina is heavily residential and traditional, meaning almost all restaurants and cafes within the old city walls simply do not serve alcohol, nor would they permit you to bring your own.
Respect the local customs.
If you want a licensed restaurant, a cocktail bar, or a place to buy a bottle of wine, you need to head out of the ancient city and into the Ville Nouvelle or the upscale Hayriad district, where diplomatic hotels and modern European-style bistros operate freely.
Which perfectly transitions into a broader discussion on etiquette, because this is where well-meaning tourists consistently embarrass themselves.
Oh, they really do.
The tipping culture is straightforward. Leaving about 10% at a sit-down restaurant is standard and appreciated, and leaving a 2 to 5 dirham coin at a cafe for your morning espresso is perfect.
Very normal.
But the concept of haggling causes massive behavioral confusion.
Yes. There is a deeply ingrained tourist trope that whenever you are in an Arab country, you must aggressively negotiate the price of every single item you encounter.
It's like it's a sport or something.
In Rabat, context is everything. If you are deep inside the ancient Medina souks looking at a hand-tooled leather bag or an artisanal rug, yes, you are expected to engage in a polite conversational haggling process. That is the cultural norm for artisan goods.
But if you walk into a modern air-conditioned cafe in the Ville Nouvelle or a boutique clothing store in the Agdal district, and you try to haggle with the cashier over the price of a cappuccino or a manufactured shirt,
it is considered incredibly rude, culturally ignorant, and frankly bizarre.
Don't be that guy.
It immediately marks you as a tourist who has only read a generic Marrakesh guidebook and assumes the entire nation operates like a medieval bazaar.
Exactly.
The Ville Nouvelle operates on a modern, fixed-price capitalist economy, exactly like Paris, London, or Tokyo. The price on the tag is the price you pay.
So please look around and read the room before you try to negotiate your coffee. Now, if we combine the hotel rates, the transport costs, and the food prices we've discussed, we can actually build a definitive daily budget matrix.
Let's do the math.
We've mapped out 3 distinct financial profiles. Let's start with the low tier.
For a traveler operating on a strict low-budget Rabat is highly manageable at $45 to $55 a day.
That is so cheap for a capital city.
That mathematical breakdown includes your $20 bed at a Medina hostel like Tsouli. It allocates $10 for a mix of street food and grocery store meals.
Right.
It covers $4 for transport, which crucially includes the brilliant tram day pass. For just 8 dirham, you get a return ticket that allows you to glide across the entire city network on immaculate modern light rail.
I love that tram.
And it still leaves room for a $3 museum entry fee and a couple of dollars for afternoon mint tea.
If you bump up to the mid-budget tier, you are looking at $85 to $100 a day.
Which is very comfortable.
This perfectly aligns with that $84 regional average we cited earlier. At this tier, you and a partner are splitting the cost of a beautiful traditional riad, like Dar Tahar.
Splitting it really helps.
You are sitting down for a proper $12 tagine dinner in a courtyard. You can afford the $7 combined entry fees for major sites like the Mohammed VI Museum and the Chellah ruins.
Yeah, you aren't skipping anything.
You have a $5 budget for hopping in petite taxis when you are tired. And you can even afford a $6 glass of Moroccan wine at a licensed restaurant in the evening.
And then there is the high budget tier, which we calculate at $220 to $300 a day.
The splurge tier.
This is where the value proposition of Rabat truly outshines its competitors. This budget allows you to split a room at the luxurious Sofitel Jardin des Roses. It includes treating yourself to an $80 to $120 premium hammam spa treatment at a place like La Sultana. It covers a high-end $40 to $60 dinner at Le Dao, which is a famous atmospheric restaurant built into a replica wooden ship floating on the river.
That place is so cool.
Allows you to hire a private, licensed historical guide for $50 to walk you through the ruins. And of course, it effortlessly absorbs that top-tier 53 dirham tourist tax.
When I look at that high-end budget, I just see the ultimate financial arbitrage opportunity.
It's an absolute steal.
I really challenge the listener to find another capital city where this is possible. You are essentially securing a 5-star, ultra-premium, deeply cultural experience on what is effectively a 3-star budget in any major European or North American city.
Exactly.
The absolute peak of luxury in Rabat genuinely costs a third of what it does in Marrakesh for the equivalent standard of service. And this is a massive.
Yeah.
But to actually keep that money in your pocket, you have to survive the gauntlet of logistical traps.
Yeah, you have to be smart.
Because while Rabat is calm, there are specific friction points designed to separate you from your fash.
Exactly. While violent crime is virtually non-existent, the logistics of arriving and navigating certain administrative boundaries feature highly specific pitfalls. We have identified 3 named traps that catch smart, experienced travelers every single day.
Let's break them down. Trap number 1 is the Casablanca airport taxi setup.
We touched on this earlier, but it's important.
You land at CMN, you are severely jet-lagged after a 10-hour flight, you walk out of the arrivals hall, and you are immediately swarmed by unofficial aggressive drivers.
And they are very convincing.
They will confidently quote you 1,000 to 1,500 dirham, over $100 to $150 for the drive to Rabat. And here is the actual scam. They will look you dead in the eye and lie to you about the infrastructure.
Straight up lie.
They will insist the ONCF train is broken, or that the rail workers are on strike, or that the station is closed for construction.
This raises an important question about how tourists can confidently navigate administrative boundaries in a foreign country. We have to unpack the psychology of why this specific scam is so incredibly effective globally.
Why does it work?
It relies entirely on fear selling and exploiting cognitive load. You are in a new country, you are exhausted, your defenses are down, and a local authority figure, the driver, is assertively telling you that your primary logistical plan has failed.
So you just panic.
Panic sets in. Your critical thinking drops, and your brain defaults to seeking the fastest route to safety and a bed, so you pay the extortionate rate just to resolve the anxiety.
Wow.
But the reality is the ONCF trains, including the Al Barak high-speed line and the standard inner-city trains, run like clockwork every single hour directly below your feet.
The fix is beautifully simple, but it requires willpower.
Just keep walking.
Put your head down, do not engage with the drivers, walk past everyone shiving at you, and follow the blue ONCF signs leading to the basement escalators inside the terminal.
That's the ticket.
Walk up to the glass ticket counter and buy a train ticket in cash or with a credit card for 80 to 120 dirham. Boom.
Yeah.
You just bypassed the panic and saved yourself over $100.
Trap number 2 is intensely localized. It occurs right at the main entrance of Rabat's most famous site, the Kasbah des Oudaias mandatory guide scam.
Oh, this one infuriates me because it ruins the initial piece of the location.
It's so annoying.
You walk up to this magnificent, ancient, arched gate, and you are approached by men wearing highly official-looking traditional djellabas. They speak flawless English, French, or Spanish.
They look completely legitimate.
And they confidently inform you that the Kasbah is closed to unaccompanied tourists today. Or they claim you need to purchase a special administrative permit to take photographs of the blue walls. Both of these claims are absolute fabricated nonsense.
The mechanism of this scam relies on creating a false sense of administrative authority. Tourists are conditioned to respect rules at historical sites.
Right, you don't want to get in trouble.
But the Kasbah is not a gated, ticketed museum. It is a public functioning residential neighborhood. People live there, work there, and walk their children to school there. No guide is ever mandatory to walk down a public street.
So how do you handle it without causing a scene?
It requires firm, immediate verbal boundary setting. Do not apologize or hesitate. Walk in confidently, make eye contact, say, La shukran, which translates to no thank you and keep walking.
Just ignore them.
If they attempt to physically block you or press the issue aggressively, simply stop and point toward the tourist police station, which is permanently and visibly stationed right inside the main square of the Kasbah. That immediately dissolves the interaction.
Good to know.
And for the record, if you actually want a guide, genuine government licensed guides wear heavy stamped brass badges on lanyards, and they will quote their official rates clearly up front, usually around 150 to 250 dirham an hour.
Trap number 3 is the tourist tax cash only double charge.
The hidden tax again?
We established earlier that the 2026 tax is tiered by hotel rating from 10 to 53 dirham. But the execution at the front desk is where the scam happens.
That's so frustrating.
Some hotels will automatically quote you the absolute top-tier 53 dirham rate, regardless of whether they are a luxury resort or a budget 3-star spot. And to make it worse, they will demand you pay it in euros, applying a terrible fabricated conversion rate on the spot.
This relies entirely on the tourists' ignorance of local municipal tax categorization.
They just assume you don't know the rules.
The front desk knows you don't have the tax chart memorized. A 3-star hotel should technically only be charging around 25 dirham for its specific category, but the clerk will tell you the national rate is 53. Convert it poorly, round it up to a flat 10 euros cash, and quietly pocket the substantial difference in the register.
Unbelievable.
The fix here is administrative assertiveness. Politely but firmly demand a printed, itemized receipt that explicitly shows the hotel's official star rating alongside the tax.
Make them put it on paper.
And insist on paying the exact regulated amount in local Moroccan dirham, not euros. The tax is strictly regulated by the municipal tier system, not by the front desk's mood.
Don't let them bully you at check-in. Now, once you have successfully navigated the airport, dodged the fake guides, and settled your tax fairly traded up, how does the city actually feel to inhabit?
This is the best part.
We need to talk about safety, solo travel, and general comfort, because here's where it gets really interesting. Statistically, Rabat is the safest major city in Morocco, and it ranks as one of the safest capital cities on the entire African continent.
And we can trace that safety directly back to its governmental function.
Yeah.
Because Rabat houses the primary royal palace, the national parliament, and dozens of high-profile foreign embassies. The state security apparatus is immense and constant.
That's heavily guarded.
You have highly visible, heavily armed, uniformed officers stationed at intersections, but more importantly, there is a massive, sophisticated network of plainclothes security personnel monitoring key corridors, particularly around the Hassan Tower, the Mausoleum of Mohammed III, and the diplomatic stretches of Avenue Mohammed III.
I have to admit, I'm usually skeptical of that. Doesn't a heavy, visible police and military presence usually make a city feel oppressive or tense? How does that translate to a better, more relaxed experience for a traveler?
It's a valid question. In many global contexts, high militarization indicates instability. In Rabat, it functions as an absolute deterrent against petty and violent street crime.
Oh, right.
The severity of punishment for committing a crime in the diplomatic capital right under the nose of the royal guard is so high that local criminal elements largely avoid targeting tourists there.
They don't want the risk.
Violent crime against tourists is practically non-existent. The only things you really need to be mildly aware of are standard low-level urban issues, keeping an eye on your pockets in the tighter crowds of the Medina on a busy Friday night, and ensuring your petty taxi driver actually clicks the meter on instead of trying to negotiate a flat fare.
And the feedback from solo female travelers is overwhelmingly consistently positive. It seems materially and psychologically much easier for women to navigate Rabat independently compared to the intense constant engagement of Marrakesh or Fez.
Absolutely. The BBC specifically highlighted the calm of the Medina lanes, and women report significantly less street harassment or catcalling in Rabat.
That is a huge selling point.
There are two primary sociological forces driving this. First, the cultural influence of the Ville Nouvelle and the university sector creates a vibe that is much closer to the cosmopolitan, business-oriented atmosphere of Casablanca or Southern Europe. Women working, studying, and socializing independently is the absolute norm.
That makes sense.
Second, the low tourist-to-local ratio fundamentally changes the interaction dynamic.
Explain that concept of the ratio. Why does having fewer tourists actually make it more comfortable for a solo female traveler? Shouldn't safety in numbers apply?
Not in an extraction economy. When a city like Marrakesh is flooded with tourists, a specific segment of the local population inevitably develops predatory or highly aggressive economic behaviors to extract wealth from that constant influx.
They see you as a walking ATM.
Tourists become highly visible targets for endless interaction. You are constantly being sold to, redirected, or approached. But in Rabat, because the tourist numbers are so low and the local economy doesn't depend on them, tourists are not treated as a novelty or as walking ATMs.
So you just blend in.
You are essentially just background noise. You blend into the fabric of the city better because no one is financially incentivized to aggressively engage with your presence.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. The difference between being fresh meat and just being part of the background. And that ease extends heavily to families as well.
Families love it there.
Rabat is incredibly family-friendly. The massive Bouragreg marina development is perfectly flat-paved and pram-friendly. The tram network is spotless, modern, and accessible with strollers.
Easy to get around.
And while the city beach is problematic, if you go 20 minutes north to Plage des Nations during the summer, you'll find wide beaches with dedicated professional lifeguards on duty. Oh, and one vital geopolitical note for anyone who is reading global travel advisories issued in April 2026.
Yes, several Western governments flagged travel warnings regarding geopolitical tensions in the Western Sahara region deep in the south.
Which sounds scary.
But it is crucial to understand the scale of the country. The Western Sahara is hundreds and hundreds of miles away across the desert. Those regional tensions do absolutely zero to affect the day-to-day security or reality in Rabat, Casablanca, or anywhere on the northern Atlantic coast. It is an entirely different world.
So assuming you feel completely secure, you have your budget dialed in, and the weather is perfect, what do you actually do with your days?
That is the big question.
This brings us to a crucial section, best moments and honest disappointments. Because enjoying Rabat is entirely an exercise in expectation management. You cannot arrive expecting the sensory overload of Marrakesh. Let's start with the absolute highs, the peak moments.
The best experiences in Rabat are often the quietest and surprisingly the cheapest. From a historical and architectural perspective, the Chellah necropolis is the absolute standout of the capital.
It's stunning.
It is an ancient fortified complex situated just outside the immediate city center, and it features a stunning layered history of Roman ruins sitting directly alongside intricate Islamic Marinid architecture.
And nature has completely reclaimed the site over the centuries. You walk in and the ancient stone walls are overgrown with these vibrant, explosive bougainvillea vines. And the most iconic feature,
The storks.
massive nesting storks have built their homes right on top of the ancient stone minarets and Roman columns. You hear the clattering of their beaks echoing across the ruins. For an entry fee of just 70 dirham, it is arguably the most atmospheric, evocative archaeological site in the country, perhaps second only to the Roman city of Volubilis near Meknes.
Another absolute high is the Mohammed VI Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. It only costs 20 dirham to get in, and it is hands down the best contemporary gallery in North Africa.
It's beautiful inside.
The curation is brilliant, the facility is pristine, the air conditioning is a welcome relief on a warm afternoon, and it offers a quiet, reflective space to engage with modern Moroccan and African art far removed from the traditional artists and crafts you see everywhere else.
But my absolute favorite moment, the thing I would fly back for, is standing by the cemetery wall at the Kasbah des Oudaias right at sunset.
Oh yeah, that's magical.
You find a spot looking out over the ancient gravestones across the massive Bouragreg estuary toward the neighboring older city of Chellah on the opposite bank. As the sun dips into the Atlantic, the evening call to prayer begins. It starts echoing from 3 different minarets simultaneously across the water.
Goosebumps.
It washes over the entire landscape. It costs absolutely nothing and is genuinely one of the most profound, deeply atmospheric moments you can experience in North Africa.
It is spectacular,
Yeah.
but we promise the listener the honest verdict, which means we have to address the disappointments.
It's not all perfect.
Travelers often arrive in Rabat with a preconceived, highly romanticized mental image of what a Moroccan imperial city should look like, and Rabat often subverts those expectations, sometimes leaving people underwhelmed. Take the Hassan Tower, for instance. It is the city's most famous landmark, essentially, is Eiffel Tower.
I was shocked by this because when you look at Instagram or travel blogs, the Hassan Tower looks absolutely massive. It looks like an imposing monolith dominating an endless courtyard of pillars.
It does, but that is entirely due to the forced perspective of modern photography. Influencers drop their cameras low to the ground to make the pillars look like a towering forest.
That's an illusion.
When you actually arrive at the site, the scale is much smaller than the photographs suggest. The tower itself is historically significant. It was intended to be the largest minaret in the world before construction halted in the 12th century, but the physical footprint is compact.
You're in and out quickly.
You walk around the unfinished pillars, you take your photo of the tower, you walk into the incredibly ornate mausoleum of Muhammad V right next door, and you are entirely done with the complex in 20 minutes maximum. It is a quick historical stop. It is not a half-day immersive excursion.
And then there are the Medina souks. Look, they're authentic. Real local people buy real everyday things there, spices, practical clothing, household goods. But they're thin.
Very thin.
If you are traveling to Morocco specifically to shop, to lose yourself in an endless chaotic labyrinth of brass lanterns, hand-woven rugs, and exotic leather goods like you find in Fez or Marrakesh, you brought the wrong suitcase to the wrong city. You'll easily walk the entire length of the Rabat souk in under an hour.
And we must issue a harsh warning about the city beach. Geographically, Rabat sits right on the ocean, so travelers naturally assume they can walk down from their hotel and swim.
Do not swim there.
Unfortunately, the beach directly bordering Rabat city itself is quite polluted due to urban runoff, and it is frequently closed to swimming by the health authorities. If you want a genuinely clean, pleasant beach day, you must commit to traveling at least 30 minutes outside the city limits to Skirat or Plage des Nations.
All of this points to a harsh logistical reality that travelers need to accept when planning their itinerary. Rabat is a 2 to 3 night city. It is not a week-long destination in and of itself.
You'll run out of things to do.
The data shows that travelers who book 5 or 6 nights in Rabat consistently report running out of things to do and places to explore by day 4.
Which means strategically, you are going to need to pair Rabat with something else on your Moroccan itinerary. If you have those extra days, where do you go? We have analyzed 2 primary alternatives that naturally link up with a Rabat stay. Let's look at Chefchaouen first.
The Blue City.
It is located about 5 hours northeast, usually reached by a combination of train and a shared grant taxi.
Chefchaouen is the famous blue pearl of Morocco. It's an entire mountain town painted in varying brilliant shades of blue. It caters heavily to the backpacker demographic with hostel and Medina beds running around a highly affordable $15 a night.
The photos are incredible.
Because of its elevation in the Rif Mountains, it provides a significantly cooler climate than Rabat in the peak summer, and aesthetically, the photography you get there is simply unbeatable.
But Chefchaouen represents the ultimate cautionary tale of modern tourism. It went viral.
Viral in a bad way.
It went incredibly uncontrollably viral on TikTok and Instagram over the last 5 years. As a result, the crowds from April through October are now noticeably heavier, denser, and more suffocating in those tiny blue alleys than anything you will ever experience in Rabat.
It's the ultimate showdown between Instagram reality and UNESCO calm. If you absolutely need that iconic, famous blue photo for your feed, and you do not mind literally standing in a physical line of influencers in an alleyway waiting your turn to take it, then go to Chefchaouen.
But you have to be ready for the crowds.
But if you prioritize peace, substantially better food, and avoiding a sea of selfie sticks, you stay in Rabat.
The other major alternative is Essaouira, which sits about 3.5 hours west of Marrakesh on the southern coast.
That's a great spot.
It offers a very similar Atlantic breeze to Rabat and features a beautifully fortified, historic Portuguese-style Medina built directly on the ocean cliffs.
And the economics are fascinating because the prices for 4-star hotels in Essaouira match Rabat almost exactly. So it becomes a real toss-up for travelers seeking that coastal vibe.
They are very comparable.
Essaouira's seafood is arguably better and more deeply ingrained in the local culture than Rabat's. It is globally famous for its trade winds, making it a mecca for windsurfing and kiteboarding. And it has a vibrant, deep-rooted Nawa music scene that permeates the cafes at night.
So the decision matrix becomes clear. You choose Essaouira if your priority is beach culture, active water sports, and late-night live music. You choose Rabat if your priority is the 2026 World Book Capital literary events, pristine contemporary museums, quiet observation, and the incredibly easy, friction-free international airport logistics via Casablanca.
Which brings us to the ultimate moment of truth in this deep dive. We have covered the macroeconomics, the hidden taxes, the scams, the climate, and the culture.
It's time for the final verdicts.
Let's run the final verdicts based on all the data we've analyzed. We are going to evaluate 5 distinct traveler profiles and definitively answer whether Rabat is worth their time and money in 2026. Let's start with profile 1, the backpacker.
For the backpacker, the verdict is a resounding yes.
Absolutely.
Operating on a highly efficient daily budget of $45 to $55, which perfectly covers a bed at a place like Tsouli street food tagines, and free exploration of the Kasbah, stands as the cheapest major city in Morocco.
It's a no-brainer for budget travel.
Crucially, it is also the statistically safest environment for solo budget travelers. Furthermore, the UNESCO 2026 World Book Capital Program is injecting months of free, publicly accessible literary events panels and street fairs into the city. The optimal strategy for a backpacker is 2 to 3 nights in Rabat to decompress before taking a cheap train inland to dive into the intensity of Fez.
Profile 2, the mid-range couple. Again, the verdict is a definitive yes. This demographic is the absolute sweet spot for Rabat.
This is where Rabat really shines.
For $85 to $100 a day, you are living incredibly well. You are staying in a gorgeous traditional courtyard riad, eating at highly rated licensed restaurants, exploring world-class museums, and holding hands walking through Andalusian gardens.
Perfect.
It delivers a deeply romantic, profoundly calmer version of the Moroccan aesthetic, and it does it for a third less money than a comparable trip to Marrakesh. The recommendation here is to aim for 3 nights, ideally booking in March, April, or October, for the absolute perfect weather window.
Profile 3, the family. The verdict here is yes, but with strict conditions.
You have to be careful with kids here.
The baseline facts are great. Rabat is undeniably safe, it's highly pram-friendly, and the modern tram system is excellent for navigating a city with tired children. However, the historical sites within the city center will realistically only keep kids entertained for about 2 days maximum.
Right. By day 3, they are going to be absolutely bored to tears looking at ancient Roman columns and old walls.
Precisely. So the condition for families is that you must actively build a dynamic itinerary that pushes outside the city center.
Yeah.
You need to combine the morning city sites with afternoon trips to the expansive Rabat Zoo, perhaps a day trip via train to the historical city of Meknes, and dedicated time at the Plage de Nechon beach.
And you need that pool.
Furthermore, you must secure a 4-star property with a dedicated pool like L'Alcazar or Daliz to give the kids necessary downtime. And crucially, parents need to mentally and financially budget for that 53 dirham per person per night tourist tax, which applies to any child over the age of 12.
Profile 4, the luxury traveler. The verdict is yes with conditions. Look, properties like the Sofitel Jardin de Roses and the astonishing new 2026 Royal Mansour Rabat are delivering world-class architectural digest-level suites and service.
Incredible places.
And they're doing it at a fraction of Marrakesh's inflated luxury prices. But the condition here entirely hinges on your lifestyle expectations.
Marrakesh offers density. It provides a density of Michelin-level fine dining, a density of hyper-luxurious competitive spas, and an aggressive, vibrant, late-night VIP social scene.
Which Rabat doesn't have.
Rabat simply does not possess that infrastructure. If you are a luxury traveler whose ideal vacation involves moving seamlessly from a daybed at a VIP pool club to a high-profile dinner to an exclusive nightclub, you will be deeply painfully bored in Rabat.
Know what you want before you book.
You must come to luxury properties in Rabat for the profound quiet, the impeccable invisible service, and the isolation. You come for the retreat, not for the scene.
And finally, profile 5, the digital nomad. The verdict is a massive, unqualified yes.
The infrastructure in Rabat is perfectly aligned for modern remote work. The upscale, Agdal, and Hayriad districts are wired with incredibly fast, reliable fiber internet. You can rent a fully furnished 4-star long-stay apartment for $40 to $60 a night.
Very doable for remote workers.
And because of the deeply ingrained French-Arabic business culture, practically every cafe in the Ville Nouvelle is equipped with Wi-Fi and power outlets, and the staff are completely accustomed to patrons working on laptops for hours without any pressure to order more or leave.
Plus, from an administrative standpoint, most Western passports receive a 90-day visa-free stamp upon arrival at the airport. It provides a completely frictionless 3-month base of operations.
Which makes planning easy.
And frankly, when you look at the global nomad landscape, Rabat is meaningfully safer and vastly cheaper than trying to sustain a nomad lifestyle in saturated, hyperinflated markets like Lisbon or Barcelona right now.
Synthesizing all of this data, Rabat in 2026 represents a highly specific utility in the travel landscape. It is not trying to be Marrakesh. Travelers who arrive and punish the city in their reviews for lacking chaos mopeds and mega clubs are missing the point entirely.
Completely missing the point.
Rabat is a sanctuary city. It is a destination that rewards slow observation, deep architectural appreciation, and a genuine desire to witness authentic, uncurated Moroccan street life.
It really is. It's the deep breath you take. You land in Casablanca, take the train to Rabat, and take a deep breath for 3 days, acclimating to the culture, before plunging into the intense, frenetic energy of the rest of the country.
Well said.
And considering it costs a third of the price of the major tourist hubs, that deep breath is incredibly affordable.
But as Rabat steps into this intense global spotlight as the 2026 World Book Capital, it leaves us with a lingering, somewhat anxious question to ponder.
I've been thinking about this too.
As millions of international eyes turn toward its historic libraries, its vibrant publishing houses, and its quiet blue and white Kasbah alleys this year, will Rabat eventually inevitably succumb to the Marrakesh effect?
It's a real risk.
Will the influx of literary tourists pave the way for gentrification, influencer culture, and the crushing weight of over-tourism? Or does its very DNA as a rigid, administrative, heavily policed civil service stronghold provide a permanent, unbreakable shield that will protect its authentic calm forever?
If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day. Host and expert speaker. That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.